Welcome to Fuego J Recap. Today, I will show you an action movie from 2010, titled, The Expendables. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. In the Gulf of Aden, many people are held hostage by the Somalian pirates. As the pirate leader threatens to kill them over their refusal to pay the ransom, they are surrounded by a group of elite mercenaries, the Expendables, who have been deployed to save them. The team consists of leader Barney Ross, blade specialist Lee Christmas, martial artist Iwanyk, military veteran Gunnar Jensen, weapons specialist Hale Caesar, and demolitions expert Toll Road. They ask the pirates to release the hostages in exchange for money. When they do not agree to comply, Gunnar opens fire, which leads to an intense fight between the two groups. Later he also tries to hang a pirate, but Barney and Yang forcibly stop him, before tying him up in the plane. After coming back from the mission, Lee visits his girlfriend Lace, but learns she is seeing someone else behind his back. He gets upset about it, but she argues with him for not knowing him completely, as he never shared anything about his job. Although she tries to explain it to him, he does not listen to her, and angrily leaves. He then visits a tattoo parlor, where Barney is getting a tattoo from his friend Tool. Seeing him upset, they cheer him up, and inform him about the upcoming job. Vilena, an island in the Gulf of Mexico, is run by dictator General Garza, who oppresses his people with the support of his American friend, James Monroe. Barney is called upon for his meeting with Mr. Church, who offers him a job, while introducing him to a guy Trench Mauser, who is revealed to be Barney's rival. Church briefs them about the island of Vilena, while revealing that the small piece of land has enormous resources, that attract many people from around the world, including them. As the current ruler, General Garza is causing problems in their ongoing operations, and is challenging their authorities. He and his company want him dead. After listening about the case, Trench hands it over to Barney, who agrees to do it in exchange for $5 million. Before finalizing the deal, Church also warns him about the consequences, but Barney is confident he can pull off this operation with success. While he goes through the necessary information about the mission, Gunnar shows up and asks about it, but Barney cuts him off from the group over his misconduct, and leaves. A group discussion is held, where Barney briefs his group about the mission, and decides to visit Vilena with Lee, to get first-hand information from the area. After landing, and flying to the island by their seaplane, they introduce themselves as wildlife photographers, and eventually get permission to enter. As they walk through the streets while discussing their plan, they are forced to hide in a side alley, after the place is raided by the military. When soldiers start bashing the vendors, Lee realizes they are following Monroe's orders, and takes his pictures for further investigation. After this little encounter, they meet their handler Sandra in a local restaurant, who offers them a ride through the area. As they cross the chaotic streets, she gives Barney one of her drawings, while explaining that the island used to be a beautiful place, before being infiltrated by some people. Upon Barney's question about those people, she does not share any details, and just reveals they are some Americans who came for money, and took over their homeland. Meanwhile, Monroe questions Garza about the progress of his secret mission, but it leads to an argument, as Garza thinks he is trying to belittle him in front of his soldiers. Realizing he might be thinking about betraying him, Monroe reminds him of his help, which is making it possible for him to run the place, and forces him to cooperate. Sandra takes them near the palace, where Lee leaves to seek information on his own. After leaving with Sandra, Barney questions her about the person who hired her for the job. She shares that an American offered it to her, while he assures her that he can help Vilena. As they talk, they are approached by a military officer, who argues with Sandra for going against General Garza, while revealing she is actually his daughter. The officer then tries to hold her, which angers Barney, and he picks up a fight with him. Lee joins him as well, and Barney asks him to rescue Sandra, who is being taken away. He saves her by throwing the knife at the officer, while Barney covers him by shooting the officer pointing the gun at Lee. Soon, Monroe is informed about the incident, and rushes over to find out the details, while Lee and Barney take Sandra with them. Barney suggests leaving the island at the earliest, as they are exposed now, but Lee and Sandra start arguing with each other, because she disagrees with the plan. As Monroe and his men are still chasing them, Barney keeps them engaged, while asking Lee to get the plane ready, but Sandra refuses to go with him, because she does not want to leave her home. Barney narrowly escapes, and barely makes it to the plane, but gets upset after knowing about Sandra. Although they pretend to leave the island, but make a comeback, and burn down the dock to kill the remaining soldiers, before flying back to the US. Monroe starts investigating them, and questions Garza over his substandard security arrangements. He suspects Sandra might have a connection to them, because she was never happy with her father's activities, but Garza gets offended by his allegations. After he leaves, Gunnar shows up at Monroe's office, and offers his help against Barney, while revealing he wants to take revenge for his suspension. His staff is angered by Gunner's aggressive behavior, as he picks up a fight with them, but Monroe realizes his importance to the mission, and stops them from shooting him. Meanwhile, the group learns that Mr. Church actually works for the CIA, whose real target is Monroe instead of General Garza. Barney explains to the group that Monroe is an ex-CIA agent, who got suspended after trying to keep the drug business on the island to himself. Now, the agency wants him dead, but cannot do it openly, fearing this might damage their reputation. Although they asked for Barney's help, he decides to abort the mission, while the group agrees with him. After the meeting, Lee comes back to Lace, and realizes her new boyfriend has been abusive to her. He decides to teach him a lesson, and beats him up, while getting her back, after eventually revealing his profession. Barney soon meets his friend Tools, and shares his feelings for Sandra. After listening to him, Tools confesses his regret over letting a girl commit suicide, although he could have saved her. This motivates Barney, and he decides to go back to Sandra. Meanwhile, Monroe abducts her, as he believes she has helped Barney earlier. Upon seeing Sandra outside the palace, Garza shouts at her for not leaving the island, but she argues with him, while accusing him of killing innocent people. She is interrupted by Monroe's henchman Payne, who slaps her, before taking her away for further investigation. He begins torturing her, by using the waterboarding technique, while continuously forcing her to reveal Barney's whereabouts. Barney, who cannot stop thinking about her, gathers the group, and reveals his decision of going back to Vilena. Although they offer to go with him, he insists on leaving alone, but Yang still accompanies him. As they leave the hideout, Gunner and his men start following them on the road. Soon, they attack the car, but Barney saves Yang, while planning a counterattack. Upon his suggestion, Yang gets to the back of the car to handle the crossfire, while Barney tries his best to get out of there. After an intense car chase, both end up at a garage, where Yang picks up a fight with Gunner. After getting a few punches from him, Gunner finally hits back, and just when he is about to kill him, he gets shot by Barney. Barney immediately regrets shooting him, and tries to comfort him, while he reveals he had no intentions to kill Yang, and was just trying to scare him away. Upon Barney's question about who hired them for the task, he shares all the details about Monroe and his team. After this encounter, Yang and Barney rejoin the group, before boarding the plane to go back to the island. Meanwhile, Garza anticipates their arrival, and prepares the military to execute a counterattack. Soon, Barney and the group arrive outside the palace, where he gives them instructions about the upcoming fight, and orders them to surround the place, as he wants to search for Sandra first. Inside the palace, Monroe meets Garza, who reveals his army will no longer be obeying Monroe's orders, and will only be loyal to him. He also accuses him of siding with the CIA, and sending Barney to take him down. He then demands Sandra's release, and Monroe is left with no choice but to comply with him, so he orders his men to bring her to him. Meanwhile, the group starts moving forward, by planting explosives around the place, and killing the soldiers who come in their way. Sandra is still kept hostage, where her abductors continue to torture her. She is soon rescued by Barney, who suddenly shows up, and kills them all to save her. His team gets worried about him, after knowing their explosives are about to detonate, but Lee suggests waiting for him. Barney tries to get Sandra out of this palace, but is interrupted by Payne and his team. As one of his teammates tries to choke him down, Payne starts beating him up, after he refuses to cooperate, while Sandra is taken back to her father. Barney's team intervenes, and picks up a fight with Payne and his men, while trying to save him. They are soon cornered by the soldiers, but Caesar shows up and rescues his friends just in time, by opening fire at them. After having an emotional discussion with Sandra, Garza returns Monroe's money, while refusing to continue working for him. They get into a heated argument, that enrages Garza, and he tries to shoot him down, but Sandra stops him from doing so. He regrets his illegal activities, and eventually turns to his daughter, while admiring her moral values. As the group is about to leave, they are forced to retreat, after being surrounded by Garza's soldiers. Alarmed by the sirens, Garza shows up on the balcony, and asks his men for forgiveness. After accusing Americans of invading the island, he orders his soldiers to kill anyone they find suspicious. Although his team is moved by his sincere words, Garza is soon shot by Monroe, who then holds Sandra hostage. Meanwhile, the explosives begin to detonate, and Barney and the group make it out of the palace, while killing the rest of the soldiers. After the palace starts to come down, Caesar kills Payne by burning him alive. Monroe tries to flee from the scene, while taking Sandra with him, but Caesar and Barney defeat him by destroying the helicopter just in time. He still does not give up and tries to escape, but Barney stops him by pointing a gun at him. Monroe is not afraid of him, and forces him to drop his weapons, while threatening to shoot Sandra. He fires at Barney, while revealing the agency wanted him dead, because he found out about their plan of making money through the drugs. After keeping him distracted, Barney suddenly tries to shoot Monroe, but he gets killed by a piece of glass that Lee throws at him, while Sandra runs to Barney. As the group is about to board the plane, Barney gives his reward money to Sandra, while advising her to use it to rebuild Vilena. After successfully completing the mission, they happily fly back to the US. After a few days, they celebrate their victory at the tattoo parlor, where Lee and Tools engage in a knife-throwing competition, while Gunner, who has recovered from the injuries, has also rejoined the group. Lee starts walking out of the parlor, while reading a funny poem about Tools, and hits a bullseye from outside. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this.